kids living with her. She once had 6 children, and all 6 of them have died of AIDS. And talk about a woman that just has the best spiritual gift of nurturing and bringing anybody in who needs anything. She's just a person that has gone through things that no one can imagine what she's gone through. And she smiled the whole time we were there and taught the girls how to cook the way they cook, and made this amazing meal. The big white stuff in that picture on that plate that looks like our mashed potatoes is not our mashed potatoes. It's called sadza, and they make it from cornmeal, and that's the main thing that they eat. It expands and it fills you up, and they can grow their crops and make it themselves. But and one really cool thing that I really loved about going out there is, so it got dark, so we were all, the guys that we got to sit on a little bench, but the women sat on the floor. And before the meal, she brought around a bucket, and we all washed our hands, because you eat with your hands. And so we did the whole meal, and we were all sitting around, and she said, well, let's all stand up and let's sing. And that was another really cool part about the trip, is the singing. It is out the wazoo. They can sing on, I don't know if that's weird, but they can sing like, they just can pick up and just sing right there. And that's how she was. She was like, just think, if every time we had dinner at the house, we just all stood up and sang a few hymns. That's how it was. It was so cool. So she stood up, and we did one of our songs, and they did one of theirs, and it was just so cool. The way she just radiated, and someone who, just the things that she's gone through, and hearing her story and seeing the way she acts around people and the way she handles herself was an amazing thing to get to see. And then y'all saw a lot of pictures of him. He was the boy that was in the white polo hat, and I took a bunch of pictures with him. His name is Tinashe. He's probably the person that made the most impact on my life while I was there. Probably the first or second day we were there, I was following Dr. Sheets on rounds, and in the pediatric ward, in the burn unit, Tinashe was there, and he had climbed a telephone pole and grabbed onto the highline wire and had burns all over his left arm and onto his right hand. And at that point, Dr. Sheets wasn't sure if they could save the arm or not, and it was just that first time I saw him, it was just kind of that tugging, like, whoa, I just felt that tugging feeling. So the day went on, and I snuck away for a second with a bag of M&Ms, and I went and sat on his bed, and his uncle was there. I sat on the bed, and I pulled out one M&M, and he said, "Sweet?" And I said, "Yes, it's sweet." And he couldn't hold it, so I fed it to him, and he smiled, and we slowly, that was the first beginning to our friendship that built over the 2.5 weeks we were there in the hospital. So about 3 or 4 days later, Dr. Sheets and Dr. Stevens decided that his arm couldn't be saved, and that they were going to have to amputate above the elbow. And he was 12 years old. So after they explained it to him and his uncle, that afternoon I went in and I brought him an M&M, and I sat down on the bed, and his uncle spoke better English than him, so he translated if I needed it. And I said, "Will you ask him if he understands what they're going to have to do this afternoon?" And they talked, and he shook his head. And then I said, "Pray," and he looked at me. And I said, "Pray," and he smiled and he nodded his head, and he knew exactly what the word pray meant. So we held hands, and I bowed, and he let me pray over him. And that day I sat with him through all the stuff going through the surgery. And when he got out of surgery and was doing a little better, it was just like this horrible depression came over him, what 12-year-old boy who just lost a limb wouldn't be depressed. And I visited him about 3 days a week, and I would take my camera and take pictures of him and get showing him. They love to see themselves in the picture. And and this friendship built, and I got to meet his dad, and finally, you know, he really came around to me about when it was time to leave, which was